or annex in Benghazi.
Right, Ted. I mean, this raises serious issues. She clearly says in that video that the information she was sharing on Libya and the CIA holding prisoners there hadn't been vetted. So that means she's sharing something that she heard, really, with the public audience. Now, that's concerning because they have to ask, what's her source? Is the source of all of her information David Petraeus? Given her extraordinary access to the former director of the CIA, it would have been a reasonable assumption. But again, her access to him was not in any way in an official capacity, though she did tell me this summer that she was working with the general on writing a second book. Now, a senior intelligence official says the detention claims are categorically not true, that nobody was ever held in the annex before, during, or after the attacks. But with something like this, Ted, the damage is really done just by the nature of her putting information out there.
Well, what more do we know about his relationship with Paula Broadwell?
Well, as we heard a little bit earlier, the general's been reaching out to friends over the weekend and even today, telling them that the relationship began a couple of months after he started as director of the CIA, that it lasted up until about 4 months ago. We also know that the two were seen together about a month ago. What we don't know is if there was any conversation about the possibility of this coming out, or one warning the other that this news might be coming out. But we do know they were seen here in Washington at a dinner about a month ago.
What about Jill Kelly? What do we know about her?
Well, a government source who's familiar with the investigation confirms to CNN that the FBI probe that led to David Petraeus' resignation was launched after Jill Kelly contacted the FBI about that email she said that she received. Now, she viewed it as threatening, she said, and it turned out to be for Paula Broadwell, as you mentioned. But the source said the email was jealous in tone, but didn't know much more about the content or if there was more than one email. The source said that Kelly went to the FBI in Tampa, that's where she lived, despite living in Tampa, though Kelly has been known to be on the Washington social circuit as well, according to this government source who had actually met her at a Washington party.
All right, Suzanne Kelly talking to a lot of folks in Washington, and we'll hear more from you, I'm sure, as this story continues to unfold. So the head of the CIA was conducting an illicit affair. Is that in and itself a matter of national security? Well, some members of Congress apparently think it is, and they're asking why the intelligence committees weren't informed about the matter before they were. CNN's Dana Bash is live for us now on Capitol Hill. Dana, first off, what is the reaction of people you have spoken to up on the Hill? David Petraeus seemed to command universal respect in Congress. What are people saying today, a few days now after the shock has worn off?
The shock has worn off to, I think, even more shock, Ted, because as Dianne Feinstein, the Senate Intelligence Chairwoman, put it earlier today, as the layers of the onion are peeled over and over, you see more information that is perplexing to those who know and revered David Petraeus the way they did, particularly those who worked with him at Capitol Hill. The answer to the question about whether or not members of Congress, particularly the four heads of the intelligence committees, the Senate and House, should have been told, they say absolutely positively. In fact, Dianne Feinstein was on MSNBC earlier with Andrea Mitchell, who said that it's actually very atypical for them not to be briefed, and somebody had to make the affirmative decision not to do that. The other thing she said that she is really not happy about is, never mind them, that the President of the United States should have been involved. You know, we understand that he didn't know until the day before Petraeus actually tendered his resignation. So, you know, that was the day after the election. And the reason why they're so upset about it is because they didn't give the higher-ups this information until they concluded that it wasn't a security breach or security risk. But what about all those months where there were potential security risks or breaches while the director of the CIA was going around the world with the most highly classified information and conversations that he was having about critical hotspots?
Well, Petraeus was supposed to have testified at a hearing this week on the Hill talking about Benghazi. He will be replaced by the interim CIA director. Is there, and we've heard a little bit about this, a little rumblings, is there a chance that he will be subpoenaed and David Petraeus may be in that seat later this week?
I think the answer to the question about the hearing that's already scheduled this week, likely not. Mike Morrell, I should say, the acting CIA director, folks on Capitol Hill think that he certainly has been briefed. He's been very engaged in what the CIA did and didn't know with regard to Benghazi, and he is going to testify. However, there is a lot of anger, frankly, at General Petraeus. Specifically, again, going back to Dianne Feinstein, she said that she heard that he did a trip report on a recent trip to Benghazi and that he hasn't filed it yet. She wants to know what was in that trip report, and she even did throw out the S-word subpoena to say that she might be willing to subpoena that information before the Senate. The other thing that she said, and other sources I'm talking to on the House side said as well, is that even though he might not be there this week because, you know, they respect him as a human being and that he's going through a lot right now, they certainly intend to call him probably in a closed session to get what he knew and didn't know and his thoughts on what happened in Benghazi.
Paula Broadwell was on this very show less than a year ago in February when she was promoting the book that she wrote, co-wrote about David Petraeus. Dana, if you will, let's take a listen to what she says about her access to David Petraeus when she was talking to Brooke earlier this year.
How did you manage that? How did you get this access?
Well, this project started as my dissertation about 3 years ago, and I was working with General Petraeus virtually, doing interviews via email and occasionally running with him and interviewing. And when he was selected by the president to replace General McChrystal in the summer of 2010, I decided the time was right to turn it into a book. And so I got a visa and went to Afghanistan. I actually went on a few trips and embedded both with the troopers in the field, but also at headquarters.
Dana, are members of Congress concerned about the level of access that she was granted?
In a word, yes. And part of the concern is that she kind of wore two hats. She was somebody who was a military officer, and so she believed had some sort of security clearance once upon a time. But then the other hat she wore was effectively as a journalist because she was David Petraeus' biographer. But you know, talking to people, I do not know her, but talking to people who did know her and knew her pretty well, it was an open secret how close she was to David Petraeus, and that she could get information to him and from him pretty quickly if people who knew her could get to her and get to him.
Dana Bash, you said the layers of the onion still being pulled back. Thank you, Dana. Now this.
One clip is especially disturbing. What appeared to be rebel fighters curse as they fire. The man, unarmed, is gunned down.
Up next, a chilling CNN report as the Syrian government kills its own people. The rebels are now accused of war crimes as well, and there is video. Plus, 2 weeks later, thousands still without power across the Northeast, and now new concerns that insurance companies could take advantage of Sandy victims because of a loophole.
The Johnsons, right?
Yeah.
Which house is yours?
The one with the Silverado.
So, what do you do?
Well, nice. And Bingo, what's his name?
The Chevy Silverado. The most dependable, longest-lasting, full-size pickups on the road. Worksite to home front. Chevy runs deep.
Imagine skin so healthy it never gets dry again. Can your moisturizer do that? Dermatologist recommended Aveeno has an oat formula, now proven to build a moisture reserve so skin can replenish itself. That's healthy skin for life. Only from Aveeno.
If you think running a restaurant is hard, try running Ford. Fortunately, we've got Inc. It gives us 5 times rewards on our internet, home charges, and cable, plus at office supply stores. Rewards you put right back into our business. This is the only thing we've ever wanted to do, and Inc. helps us do it. Make your mark with Inc. Chase.
We believe that love is a chemical reaction. Chemistry has a good chance to make the world a more harmonious place. Chemistry works so that bandages end up loving the water. Families are less afraid of energy bills. And even cars and clean air get along better. That's why we don't just make chemicals, we create chemistry. BASF, the chemical company.
Some good rounders in there.